Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art and culture, and this is Billboard Breakdown. So I'm assuming by now, if you watched the show or not, you might have heard of that Twilight fanfiction turned trashy BDSM romance novel that's being converted into a movie. One plagued with bad buzz because the leads apparently have no chemistry and they need to reshoot all the sex scenes and they need an R rating simply because of all the cheap mid-90s softcore. Then they need to fill the running time and take away from the awful plot. Now, okay, trust me, I'm gonna see 50 Shades of Grey and give it the due thrashing on this channel that it deserves, but until then, we've got the soundtrack, and the songs that can't stop rising on the charts. I gotta say, America, you seem to take my assertion that the public had taste like a challenge, because from the looks of things, we had a really rough week. But you know what? Enough of that, let's talk about our top 10. To the surprise of absolutely nobody, Uptown Funk by Mark Ronson and Bruno Mars continued to absolutely rule, finally getting the top in airplay thanks to strong gains on the radio, streaming, and sales. And the fun thing is that Thinking Out Loud by Ed Sheeran is steady right behind him at number 2. A distant second, but second nonetheless. Now the first surprise on our countdown comes from Take Me to Church managing to rise a slot to number 3. And sure, part of it is thanks to strong streaming, but with its slightly lower sales and slowing airplay, I reckon it snagged the slot less on its strength and more on the weakness of Taylor Swift's Blank Space. Now that song slipped down to number 4, even despite its YouTube dominance, mostly because, well, it peaked in airplay and it had weaker sales this week, so it's starting to fade away naturally. What's not fading is Shake It Off by Taylor Swift at number 5, which is losing airplay and sales and really is only getting propped up thanks to YouTube. But here it's getting down to be a numbers game, with few songs really strong enough to replace it. I mean, Maroon 5 Sugar unsurprisingly went up to number 6 thanks to a good week unsurprisingly across the board, but beneath that, Meghan Trainor's Lips Are Moving might still be gaining some airplay, but its weaker YouTube sales and especially streaming is holding it back to number 7. Meanwhile, Sam Smith's I'm Not the Only One seems to be mostly propped up on streaming at this point because it's finally dropping in airplay and sales, and YouTube was pretty shaky this week too. Nick Jonas's Jealous had the same problem, having already peaked in airplay, but its weaknesses were all the more stark all across the board, including a particularly bad sales week. It was enough for us to get a new entry into the top 10, Fall Out Boy's Centuries, which is the first Fall Out Boy song to crack the top 10 in 8 years. It's not because that song is doing great, I just had a good sales and streaming week and really hasn't peaked in airplay yet. With this many losses, we could be getting an interesting top 10 over the next few weeks, mark my words there. Now of course, when we venture out to look at our losers and our dropouts, things get a little less interesting. Now the biggest dropout is Bobby Shmurda's Hot Boy, followed by Trey Songz's collaboration with Nicki Minaj, Touchin' Lovin', which I actually didn't hate, and that awful posse cut DJ Khaled put together with Chris Brown, August Alsina, Future, and Jeremih. But you know what, they're all 2014 songs that are finally getting thrown off, and they're not the only ones. Beg For It by Iggy Azalea and LA Love by Fergie continued their free falls to 72 and 79 respectively. The actually pretty good song Perfect Storm by Brad Paisley takes a hit to go into 78, and Calvin Harris's solid enough collaboration with John Newman Blame drops to number 50. The last 3 songs aren't exactly surprising either, with Heartbeat Song by Kelly Clarkson dropping to 67, Homegrown by the Zac Brown Band going down to 81, and Uma Thurman by Fall Out Boy unfortunately dipping to 85. But then again, none of these songs have full videos on YouTube yet, and thus haven't had a lot of growth there. And no, Fall Out Boy, releasing a remix with Wiz Khalifa verse is not helping anybody. I know you're touring with them, you didn't have to ruin one of your better songs with that. But okay, let's talk about our gains. And really, it's a mixed bag. Yes, it's good to see Style by Taylor Swift go to 37. It'll likely rocket up to the top 10 if Taylor releases a video. And Shut Up and Dance by Walk the Moon gained a little bit to go to 64. But outside of that, well, Neo and Juicy J She Knows went to 38, but that's because he needed something to push that new album coming out that nobody cares about. And Take Your Time by Sam Hunt unfortunately went up to 53 because, well, country radio programmers don't have the slightest hell what they're doing. But seriously, does anyone want Throw Some Mo by Ray Shrimmer featuring Young Thug and utterly wasting Nicki Minaj on only the hook going to 73? Does anyone like that song? And, of course, we've got our songs from 50 Shades of Grey, with Earned It by The Weeknd rocketing up to number 27, thanks mostly to the video, and Love Me Like You Do by Ellie Goulding cracking the top 20. Neither song is anywhere near the artist's best songs. Hell, they aren't even the best from each artist on the Hot 100 right now, but I at least know that the second the movie's released, they probably start to fade away a little bit. Neither of these songs is a let it go, if you catch my drift. But enough about those, now on to our solitary returning entry. which I already covered about a month ago, and it still hasn't grown on me. For as a follow-up to Shower, it's nowhere near as sticky or interesting, and I still find Becky G cooing sexual entreaties at me kind of uncomfortable. For God's sakes, Dr. Luke, she's 17, it's just getting creepy at this point. And are you just gonna be drip feeding us singles from Becky G, or are you actually gonna release an album at some point? Because I'm not seeing one looking to be released, and that's a problem. Well, that was quick. So now on to our new arrivals, starting with number 99, Slow Motion by Trey Songz.
We could take our time, baby, in slow motion.
You know, I think I was kinder than the majority of critics to Trey Songz' 2014 album, Trigger. And really, upon retrospect, outside of Change Your Mind, the album has not held up well. It also hasn't sold all that well in comparison with his other records, so it's not exactly surprising that he's re-releasing it with a new single. And honestly, it's a step in the right direction. Sure, it's still very much in Trey Songz' typical wheelhouse of the blatant sexual lyrics and the whole conceit of everything being in slow motion. It gets kind of funny the more you actually think about it, but the muted guitars, the gentle clicking beat, it kind of fits together pretty well. And yet, as typical with Trey Songz, the production completely falls apart and really lets him down. Did anyone think the best thing for an intimate sex song was gang vocals, this heavier clap beat, and a warped hollowness to each sound punctuated by whooshes and distant chopped vocal samples? In other words, man, the song should have been a lot better. I'll take it, but only just barely. Number 96, Immortals by Fall Out Boy. Oh, lovely. The worst song from Fall Out Boy's American Beauty, American Psycho. And just like with Trey Songz, it's the production that lets them down here, especially on the vocals. It's very compressed around the mid to upper range, which makes Patrick Stumps' vocals feel so much thinner. Granted, the completely gutless backing vocals, either auto-tuned or not, they don't help matters. The frustrating fact is that the bass and the guitar lines are actually pretty good, and while Patrick Stumps' warble all over the underwritten chorus really is incredibly grating, the verses, they're solid enough. It's as if the song is still somewhat passable. It still is the worst song on the album. It doesn't really hook me at all. But once again, it's nowhere near as good as it should have been. There's potential there and they just kind of blew it. Number 94, Somebody by Natalie LaRose featuring Jeremih. So as I've talked about a number of times, R&B has effectively usurped most pop music on the charts. And as we saw in the latter half of 2014, all sorts of artists try to fight for new dominance on the radio. Natalie LaRose is the newest artist to enter the fray, signing to Flow Rida's imprint, and she's now working with Jeremih. In other words, she's working with the definition of forgettable artist. As such, there's not a lot to the song. The thicker synth line is distinctive, but it's clearly biting from the DJ Mustard template, especially with the snap and drill-like percussion. As for her singers, well, outside of Jeremih borrowing his cadence from Whitney Houston's I Wanna Dance With Somebody, he's got this weird habit of doing this in songs in the late 80s and early 90s. It's bizarre. And insisting that they don't have to tell nobody about their conquest. Okay, why all the secrecy? It happened in Don't Tell 'Em here, and now it's happening here. I don't get this. But honestly, the song's not all that special. I hate to compare anything against Don't Wanna Go Home by Jason Derulo, but for as much as I absolutely hate that song from 2011, at least it's understood that if you want a track about staying turned up past when the club closes, at least that song had energy. This song, it's better than Don't Wanna Go Home, but it is forgettable. I'd skip it. Number 86, Trap Queen by Fetty Wap. Okay, have you ever been in the situation when just looking at a song's title gives you a really bad feeling? Yeah, going into Trap Queen by New Jersey rapper Fetty Wap, I had no expectations of quality outside of another rapper who's not from the South drumming on trap beats because they're popular. And while we did get that, I wasn't expecting this, namely because it's a song that alternates between being actually pretty decent and pretty damn awful. The one consistent element is the production, which is actually brighter and generally more agreeable than most trap production, mostly thanks to the major chords. If it's a bit overcrowded thanks to that chip tune over the chorus. But as for Fetty Wap, see, the funny thing is that on technical basis, he's not a bad rapper. And his second verse proves that he can string together a pretty good flow. And hell, the content isn't bad either. Sure, most of it is typical luxury trap rap, but I couldn't help but be kind of amused at the fact that he and his trap queen are very much partners in crime, and they're almost kind of love struck, even making pies together. At least until Fetty Wap ruins it by saying he's gonna run into somebody's house and screw somebody else's girlfriend. Thanks for that. And that's not counting his half-sung cadence on the other verses, which sounds a little bit like he's trying to do a Future impression but without the auto-tune. And I'm sorry, it just doesn't work, at least for me. Otherwise, honestly, there's a part of me that kind of likes this song, but like our first few arrivals, it could have been a lot better. Just kind of let me down here. Number 82, Worth It by Fifth Harmony featuring Kid Ink. You know, I can't help but feel a little bit amused by the marketing on display with this song. I mean, both Kid Ink and Fifth Harmony are dropping albums in the next week or two, so why not do a song together for some cross-promotion? Well, if Worth It is the production of their collaboration, I'm a lot more interested in whatever Fifth Harmony might put together than Kid Ink, because he does not come across all that good on this song at all. I mean, I remember liking a lot of tracks off of My Own Lane, but man, he doesn't impress me here, mostly because his single repeated verse is pretty damn lazy. As for Fifth Harmony, well, now I can tell them apart. I can definitely say that giving Dinah and Normani the least number of verses to focus instead on Ali and Camilla, that was definitely a mistake. Because the more soulful delivery from Dinah and Normani is much more appealing, especially when that instrumentation really sweeps in the pre-chorus. Outside of that, the production still sounds about as thin as you'd expect coming from a Psycho Records production, and the horn line makes this the second song on the chart trying to rip off Talk Dirty by Jason Derulo. And considering the lyrics are pretty damn thin and forgettable, I'm sorry guys, I think I'm gonna stick with Little Mix. Number 71, Truffle Butter by Nicki Minaj featuring Drake and Lil Wayne.
Yeah, they all get what they desire from it. What? Tell them niggas we ain't hiding from it.
So okay, when I reviewed the standard edition of the Pink Print and slagged the absolutely terrible song Only, I get a fair few number of comments telling me that I should look up the deluxe edition song Truffle Butter with Lil Wayne and Drake because apparently it was a lot better than that and there was no Chris Brown on it. Now I wasn't exactly willing to hear more Nicki Minaj after that extremely long album, and if the song had really been great, it would have actually made the album. But now that Truffle Butter is actually charting, how's the song? Well, it's a hell of a lot better than Only, that's for damn sure. I'm not gonna say it's a great song. At the end of the day, the content's pretty empty, and the double rhymes from all three artists are really kind of exasperating. But you know what? For the most part, the bars are solid from all three rappers, and they do get a couple modestly clever lines. I probably prefer Drake most of all. If anything, I'd probably take most issue with the production. Sure, the percussion has a lot of energy, but the melody is this washed out, dreary, low keyboard line, and then they got this faded voice coming in and out. And you'd think that a song about bragging about sex and money would actually bring a little bit more energy to the table. Overall, it would probably have been a much stronger album cut than most of the Pink Print. Might have been enough to elevate the album, but given what I've heard about the problems within Cash Money right now, this is looking to be a management issue why it was cut. Bit of a shame there because the management right now sucks. And finally, number 54, 4-5 by Rihanna, Kanye West, and Paul McCartney.
Dance till Friday. I'm just trying to make it back home by Monday morning. I swear I wish somebody would tell me, ooh, that's all I want.
Okay, can somebody please tell me what the hell Kanye is doing with these Paul McCartney collaborations? I'm not saying that they're precisely bad, but I keep expecting a lot more than what I'm getting. And 4-5 Seconds, it's no different, even though it's technically a Rihanna song. Now don't get me wrong, there are things to like about this track. Rihanna's rough-edged vocal performance, it's great. And the multi-tracking is really well done. And the stripped-down guitar beat and the organ on the bridge, that was a nice touch. Hell, you can even tell that Kanye's starting to become a better singer to the point where he's not relying on auto-tune in the same way. I like that. But let's be real, this is a song about being on the edge of flipping out within seconds. One point that can land Kanye in jail, and you pair it with instrumentation that's got no tension or tightness or any kind of groove or conveys any sort of anger. And once again, you've got Paul McCartney and you give him nothing to do beyond the instrumentation. I feel this might have been the tagline of this episode, but once again, we've got a song that's passable, but god damn it, it could have and should have been a hell of a lot better. So So yeah, that was this week, and wow, I'm not impressed. No outright standouts in either best or worst, which means the margin between best and worst songs gets pretty damn thin. Okay, for worst, I think I'm giving it to Natalie DeRose Somebody featuring Jeremih, with the dishonorable mention slipping to Immortals by Fall Out Boy. And really, I can't say either song is all that bad, just alternatively forgettable and kind of disappointing. For the best, you know, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Nicki's gonna take this because Truffle Butter with Drake and Lil Wayne just scrapes in over Slow Motion with Trey songs. A song that actually kind of grew on me a little bit. I don't exactly have high hopes given what's coming out later, given the album's dropping in the next few weeks, but you know what? The charts could at least get interesting. Let's hope so. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.